Hello, everybody. It is May the 14th and we are live. I am so excited. It's the view from the top and we have got backstage the amazing Carolyn Volovsek and Morgan Kelly, and we are going to be talking about the incredible journey, and trust me, it is incredible how Cox Enterprises, Cox Automotive have transformed their mobility policy and the journey they went on for a period of, well, over 5 years to transform the policy. You will love it. So we're going to go through that. We're going to be talking about how their policy changed, the role of technology in it, some of the cool things they've been doing, all about Cox, and you will be able to ask any questions. If you've got questions for Carolyn and Morgan as we get them on stage, do feel free to ask them their questions. We've also got our immigration update as ever. And of course, we've got all the latest breaking news from around the world of global mobility. Please, you know how it works, as indeed Rob has just done, and Christina has just done, is join the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you are, what's going on. We've got Ferzine coming in from the Bay Area. Always good to see you, Ferzine. People are coming in from all over the world. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. And also we are available on Spotify as a podcast. What more could you want? Well, I'll tell you what more you can get. You can also get your CPE code. So if you want CPE codes from ERC, from SHRM, from HRCI, then many thanks to our good friends at Worldwide ERC and indeed our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. We have all those all important GMS, CRP, HRCI, SHRM, any other combination of letters that you want. We have all those CPE codes available for you. So I said, this is all about the incredible journey that Cox has been doing over the last few years, and we're going to be talking about that. But in fact, next week, we've got another great journey to talk about. We're going to be talking about the delivery hero journey. So again, another really cool company, and we're going to be talking about what they've been doing over the last few years. So lots of great stuff coming up. Meanwhile, what's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility over the last 7 days? Well, you know what? Let's find out. Let's run the video. Let's see who's got a new job, who's been promoted, and if you're looking, what jobs are out there for you at the moment in our wonderful, wonderful world of global mobility. So there we have it. Lots of people have been promoted. Congratulations. Lots of people have got new jobs. Congratulations. And if you're looking, there's loads of jobs out there. So happy hunting. And if you've got a bit of news you want to share with the industry, drop us a note. We'll try and publicize your bit of news, whether it's a promotion or a new job, or indeed, if you've got a job that you want to publicize, then let us know. So that's all that news. I should also mention that I think today and tomorrow, the Forum for Expatriate Management, EMAs, and the summit are on in Dallas. So good luck to everybody at the EMAs, and we hope you all win. Obviously, you can't all, but we hope everybody comes away happy with their wins and have a great conference. So we're now going to move on. We're now going to be talking about immigration, and as ever, we are super honored to have with us the wonderful Julia Onslow Cole. So everybody, you know how it works. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. Please, everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage Julia Onslow Cole. Hi, Julia. How are you doing?
Very
Hi.
well, thank you. Yes.
So I know last week you were out in the Middle East, I think in the UAE, but you're now back home in Winchester, I believe.
I am, yes. I'm missing all the excitement with President Trump's trip to the Middle East, but I'm
I
back
know
here
you
now.
should have stayed on a few days.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
So I'm just going to do a couple of minutes on trends that we're seeing in residence and citizenship. And was a speaker at a fantastic conference yesterday run by Karen Jones at City Wealth. So there are a lot of intermediaries and advisors advising high net worth people from all around the world. And there are representatives from Bermuda, Cyprus, Jersey, numbers of sort of trust establishments in different countries overseas. And so there was a big discussion yesterday about what trends we're seeing with individuals, because obviously we talk every week about all the different trade agreements, the discombobulation with supply chains, what companies are doing. But this impacts individuals and ultra high net worth and high net worth individuals. So the conference was really about trends that we're seeing. And I thought there's some sort of interesting things arising from the conference that I just share. So one of the things is that, in fact, Penny Mordaunt was at the conference, but there were quite a few comments from different people who are advising individuals saying that we are seeing quite a few people, unfortunately, leave the UK. This is a culmination of quite a few years of changing the rules around domicile, so changing the tax rules. And that has been happening a little bit by little bit, but people are now quite upset about where we've landed currently about those tax rules. Also, there's concerns about the VAT on school fees. So generally, we have seen, the trend is being seen is that quite a few high net worth individuals are leaving the UK.
So the UK is becoming a little bit or less attractive for high net worth. Is that a trend we're seeing with other countries, or other countries gaining?
No, so other countries are gaining. So the question was, well, what countries are gaining? So I mean, one of the big countries that are gaining is Dubai, and I know that from my own I know that very well from my own experience. And in fact, Fragmented had a fantastic dinner last week in Dubai on the back of attendance at a really big private client conference. And, we can see, and by talking to the government last week, more and more people want to go to Dubai. And that's because, it's very good, the immigration landscape, golden visas, it's very good in terms of the tax environment, security. So altogether, it does tick a huge amount of boxes, and it's seeing a real flood of high net worth individuals, CEOs want to move there.
Julia, I don't know if you've heard the same. More and more people choosing to go to Italy as well as a destination because
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's other interesting trends. Like there was a big trend for people to go to Switzerland, but actually at the moment there's quite a lot of concern about Switzerland about whether or not they're going to change their tax or residency rules. So that's all up in the air. There was an advisor that does a lot of work in Switzerland saying that we should have more clarity by the end of the year. But ultra high net worth people don't really like it when there's not clarity or stability. The other thing I was just going to say is that, you may have heard a lot about the proposal in the US to give people golden visas. And the idea between these golden visas is that you pay quite a lot of money and then you would actually be exempt. You'd bypass worldwide taxation. So there's quite a lot of discussion about that. And what everyone's saying is that really that's unlikely to be brought in without going through Congress. You can only bypass Congress on a very sort of narrow pathway, and really that is a special process called budget reconciliation. And you really have to show that it is directly affecting government spending or taxes. So, the idea of the golden visa fitting in that is quite narrow, and people don't really think that it could be fitted into this accelerated process.
When that was announced, I mean, the suggestion was that could raise upward, towards $1 trillion.
Yes, I think the question is, because people are used to seeing the executive decisions, so things are announced very quickly, and then there's the executive decision puts them into practice quite quickly. I think the point I'm trying to make is that it's an idea that may be pursued, but it's going to have to go almost certainly through Congress, so it's going to take some time. And then in the interim, what we're seeing is that we're seeing a lot of EB-5 applications, particularly from people from India and China, where you can have an accelerated pathway to your green card and permanent residence, which you might not have been able to under different categories. So a lot of EB-5s are going on. And then the final thing I wanted to say, I don't know if people have read this, but there has been in the past a lot of countries in Europe that have allowed citizenship by investment. So you can make an investment and then you'd gain citizenship of that country, but then you'd also have an EU passport. So Cyprus is a country that you could have had citizenship by investment. The government stopped doing that. And there was a big scheme in Malta, and very recently, there's been a decision by the ECJ to say, no, you cannot, Malta's citizenship by investment scheme cannot really continue. And it's sort of they're saying it really commodifies European citizenship. So therefore, this has been quite a big thing in that kind of landscape. And then people are looking for where you can say have residency by investment. So in summary, a lot of movement, a lot of changes, a lot of people are considering their position and moving. And this really is like parallel to what we're talking about every week in terms of our corporate moves.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that update. That's super helpful as ever. We're going to move on now. We always do a little Benivo update before we get into the main segment. But this week, because we have Carolyn and Morgan from Cox, who are both Benivo clients on, we're actually going to bring them onto the Benivo update, and then we're going to move on to talk more about what's going on at Cox itself later. So we're doing things slightly different. So anyway, as we say goodbye to Julia, please, everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big, big goodbye to Julia Onslow-Cole, and a big, big welcome to Matt Cheek from Benivo, and Morgan Kelly and Carolyn Volovsek from Cox. So let's do it. Let's move on. Hey, so excited to have you guys on. Good to see you both. So it is. It's just I don't know. I just get excited about this part of the show. Matt, I'll start with you if I may. Tell us about how you first met Carolyn and Morgan. And the Carolyn Morgan, I think I'm going to have to ask you to come off mute at some point when you're ready. Matt, just open up for us.
Sure. First got to know Carolyn many years ago when she was of the team at Cox of the program, and have got Morgan in the last years after she joined the team.
Okay. Matt, we're getting a bit of a sound issue with you, I'm afraid. So I'm going to sort of just put you back on mute for a second, if I may.
Oh, no. Okay.
So let me just move on. Carolyn, Morgan, just tell me a bit about Cox. For those companies that don't know Cox, Nina's saying, hi, Morgan, so nice to see you. So, Carolyn, just tell us a bit about Cox itself.
Sure. Yeah. So Cox is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Although I don't sit in Atlanta, but Cox is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. It is a family-owned company. We have several divisions within Cox. So there's Cox Enterprises, Cox Automotive, Cox Communications, and our newest business, Cox Farms. So Cox Automotive, we are very diverse amongst our divisions. So Cox Automotive, you may have heard of Manheim Auto Auctions or Autotrader.com. We support a lot of auto dealers with back-end software for inventory management and marketing. On the Cox Communications side, if you are down south, you might have Cox Internet. We are a cable and internet provider. We have Cox Mobile Services, getting into cloud services on that front. Cox Enterprises is really, our, I don't want to say it's a holding company because it's more than a holding company, but Cox Enterprises at the corporate level is where we see a lot of our growth operations falling under. So, we are getting into, environmental sustainability with single-use plastics recycling. We have the Cox Farms division, which kind of rolls up under Cox Enterprises, we are now the largest greenhouse operator in North America. So if you see Moochie Farms or Bright Farms in your grocery stores, you're buying mini cucumbers or tubs of lettuce, that is a Cox business. So we are very diverse. It keeps us on our toes. There's always something new that we are learning about the businesses that we are involved in.
And Morgan, tell us a bit about tell us a bit about mobility at Cox.
Absolutely. So Cox really began, I started with Cox in 2022, December of 2022, and we've really embarked on a transformative journey to centralize our global mobility program in terms of our immigration operations, domestic relocation, international activities, and Carolyn is our leader of the Global Mobility Center of Excellence. And prior to the formation of the COE, all of the organizations really operated under disparate relocation programs and policies. And we had previously had 2 relocation management companies. And so really we found that our goal was to consolidate to a single RMC. Through Benivo, we're really able to leverage a lot of technology for Cox to streamline our processes. And so we're excited to dive into our discussion today.
Cool. Well, we'll get into that in a bit, but that's an amazing update. So, Carolyn, let's just start at the beginning in terms of the Benivo relationship, and then we'll get into the whole sort of journey from a policy point of view a bit later. What was your objective at that point of moving to a technology platform?
Yeah, so we really looked at the time, this started back in 2021, 22.
That's a long time ago. That's like COVID.
It's been a long time, right? But all good things take a while, right? So it's been a long time that we've been working with Benivo. And one of our main objectives, which I know we'll get into a little bit later, was to streamline and standardize our programs across all of our divisions, right? Because we had very fragmented policies, across all of our divisions. And with that, we also wanted to look at, okay, if we're going to have these centralized standard policies, how can we create a platform and have a system that allows us to really effectively manage these and bring all of our vendors together into one spot, right? Because, at the time, right, we had multiple RMCs. We have an immigration vendor. We have a tax vendor. So how do we work to not only optimize our policies, and standardize across the enterprise, but how do we make the management of those policies as seamless as possible for our team who's managing all of the parts and pieces in different, vendors and going to different systems, so that we can provide the best level of service to our employees and to our businesses, because we knew that any type of policy consolidation and standardization was going to be a change, right? So how do we work with them through the change and make it easier for our team to address some of the perceived challenges that come with changing policies and moving forward in a slightly different direction?
So you're basically looking to have something overarching your different providers, your supply chain, so that you've got one place where everything is under your control. You can view everything. So rather than going into multiple different platforms from different providers, you're looking at something overarching it. Matt, and I will, I'm going to watch your sound, Matt, because we are having a technical problem. But Matt, from your perspective, tell me about that transformation.
To start working with Carolyn and the team when this vision and desire was coming together, because this was very well aligned to.
I think, Matt, I'm going to say goodbye to you at the moment because we are having a sound problem. I do apologize, but it's been lovely seeing you. Okay. Everybody, throw up to Matt Cheek, who sadly is leaving us due to a technical problem. But let's carry on, Morgan, and well, actually, that question that I was asked, Matt, maybe Morgan, if you could come in on that. I mean, from your perspective, how is it like going through that transformation program to actually putting in that new technology? Tell us a bit about the process from your perspective.
Absolutely. So as we were going through implementation, we partnered not only with Matt and the team on revising our guidelines, but they also helped us set up all of the technology components as well associated with how we wanted to use the overall platform. And so, as Carolyn mentioned, our goal was to have a strategic place where we could go in and have a hub for all of our immigration, global mobility, relocation activities. And through the process, we have really been able to accomplish quite a bit, not only launching lump sum programs, but we've built out APIs with our payroll department in partnership with Benivo for payroll reporting as well. And so Benivo has been really a one-stop shop for us to help manage the employee experience, provide strategic reporting for our business leaders on the overall program as well, and have a fully functioning integration from a payroll perspective. Carolyn, did you have anything to add on that?
No, I mean, I think you covered it. I think the big benefit of the implementation and moving forward with the system really was to have one central source of truth for our team to go in and manage all of those files, cutting back on a lot of the back and forth and the number of clicks that we had to do to find information, going into one centralized platform to gather all of that really helped reduce some of the time that our team was spending going to pull information, put it together, combine, and send off to who we needed to send it to.
So I'm going to ask you a question that you may not know the answer to, Carolyn, but how many clicks do you think you've saved? Because you're talking about going into different systems and clicking. So, I mean, tell us about the sort of then and now.
Well, yeah. Well,
I'm not asking for a number.
I think it all depends, right? But right now, we have an RMC, we have an immigration provider, we have, our tax provider. We also have our centralized, our HCM, right? We're a Workday shop, right? So we have Workday for all of our employee data. So you figure that's 4 clicks right there, if you're looking at things, and then to go back and forth to try and pull salary data or pull expiration dates. I mean, it could be 4 clicks, it could be 10 clicks, but having everything in one spot really cut back on the number of systems that we're having to access, and the speed at which we are able to gather the data, right? Because it's not only the clicks, but then it's pulling the data that you need, putting it into a report or in an Excel spreadsheet, doing VLOOKUPs, merging things, consolidating reports to get all of the information in one spot. So you're really cutting down on all of that work that we would normally be doing when we are working through just our different vendor partners.
And Morgan, from your perspective, how has technology made your life easier or more efficient or more effective?
Great question. I would say there's been a lot of value add in terms of the support that we have received from Benivo, not only from the unlimited cost estimates that we're able to run, which really provide accurate and comprehensive cost estimation for our mobility programs, but we've also made significant strides towards ensuring we have all of our proper reporting that we need. So whether it's budgeting actual relocation costs versus budgeted costs. And I would say that really the single platform integration, to Carolyn's point, has really just been a cohesive system for us. It's really provided quite a bit of ease in terms of the management, SLA tracking, and mostly cost reporting as well.
I always love the idea that was then, this is now. And I mean, you talked about the unlimited cost estimates. I think, a lot of people in mobility are quite fearful of cost estimates because they know every time they do one, it takes a day or two to get it back, and it's expensive, and it's a process, and it's not easy to do. So, Carolyn, tell us about, from your experience, the sort of that was then and this is now in terms of how you do cost estimates.
Yeah, I mean, prior to implementing the platform, right, I think you had to really work with the businesses to be concise and to get exactly the information that you wanted to include in those cost estimates. One, because it's going to take time, right? Because you're either going to be manually trying to run it on your own, right? And pull costs from different areas and then send it off to your tax partner to get the tax pieces, or you're going to be, trying to compile all the data to send it either to your RMC, right? Or your tax provider to pull that estimate. You want to make sure that all that information is 100% accurate, because one, it's going to take time, right? It's going to be a 24 to 48 hour turnaround, most likely. Wow. Two, it's expensive, right? Yeah. It costs you money because, your partner, rightfully so, they're doing work on their end as well, right? To have someone manually calculate or run those estimates through their systems. So you wanted to make sure you got it right. With the now, right, with the system that we have access to and the cost estimates that we can run through Benivo, we don't necessarily have to get it right the first time, right? That's always the goal, right, is to get it right and to have the benefits. But we are able to use those estimates to have more of an interactive dialogue with our businesses, right? Because they might see an estimate for a move that they think they want to provide someone, but it comes back too expensive. We don't have the budget for this. Or, well, I just talked to the employee and, they're not going to be selling their home, right? So can I get a revised estimate to help us better budget or make a decision? And we have the ability to quickly go back into the system, run a new cost estimate, no cost, and it's instantaneous. So it has definitely made, I think, and Morgan can speak to this as well, it's made our lives a lot easier. It has sped up the time that it takes to get information into the hands of our businesses. And it allows us to be more consultative, I think, because we do have the ability to run multiple versions of scenarios for our businesses to help them decide what makes the most sense for them.
And Morgan, I think you're going to come in on that.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Morgan. There we go.
You hear me now? One thing I wanted to add too was that having a centralized platform where we can track the approvals from our leaders has been crucial as well. So if there's ever any questions on who's approved a relocation or an assignment, we have that in a central location where we can refer back to it at any point rather than shuffling through emails or files to find that information.
Yeah, I suppose one of the issues with cost estimates when they take time and each one costs money is almost the feeling is, well, let's not bother, or maybe just do a back of the envelope because, someone's chasing you, they want to move somebody, you don't want to wait 24, 48 hours. And I won't ask what you're paying, but these things can be, easily $500 a pop or something. So, if you want to sort of keep amending them and changing it, it can actually be quite an expensive hobby. Whereas the beauty of doing something instantaneous and free is that you can actually then play around with it and do all the what ifs and hopefully come up with savings which are significantly greater than the time that you spent doing it, which is instantaneous anyway. Okay, so I mean that's all very, very interesting about how these cost estimates were there. I'd like to find out a little bit more about mobility at Cox generally, and if you like, the incredible journey that you're at. And we actually prepared a little welcome video. So let's just run that video, and then we'll sort of move on from talking about how Benivo interacted with Cox to actually about the Cox journey in and of itself. So let's just see that video as we move forward. So you're back again. So I should actually start by saying, maybe somewhat belatedly, congratulations to both of you for being voted part of our top 250 women leaders in global mobility. It's quite unusual to have two people from the same company voted in, but it just shows how highly regarded you both are, because these are nominations that come in from the industry. I mean, let's just talk about that. I mean, what is your, how significant is it, for to be really strong female leadership in global mobility?
You want to take that one, or do you want me to, Morgan? I mean, I think it's an honor, right, to be voted, because to your point, it was voted on by peers, and I think our team is all female, right? Like, so I think there are so many strong female leaders within the mobility industry. And it's good to have that female voice, right? To help move the industry forward. I will say as well with Cox, I was amazed when I started at the number of females in leadership positions, especially when you look at Cox Auto. Automotive is a male-dominated industry historically. There are a lot of female leaders within our company, which is tremendous. So,
yeah.
Okay, and we've got a picture of your team. Let's just pull it up. So tell us about the Cox Mobility team.
Yeah, so that's the pictures of our team. So we are a very geographically diverse team. We are spread out amongst the U.S. We are all considered remote, although Morgan sits in the Atlanta area and can come into the office. We are 100% remote. We have in that picture, there was Salome Choksi. She is in North Carolina. Bianca Rochester, she's now in Texas. And our fifth team member, Kathleen Jennings, who was not in that picture, she wasn't able to attend the meetings that we had on site. She's based out of Chicago. So we are spread out across the U.S., very geographically dispersed to support our businesses. We try to meet at least once a year in person in Atlanta at headquarters, and that was at one of our, last year, was that, Morgan, when we met?
Yes, that was last year. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I know we're getting a little bit of interference, so apologies to the audience. We believe this is a StreamYard problem, which we're trying to sort out. But let's move on. So it's an amazing team there. How many people do you move a year? Give us an idea of volumes.
So we have, from an immigration perspective, we support a little over 400 employees with their immigration sponsorship. When you look at mobility, both domestic relocation, international assignments, international transfers, we probably move, and Morgan, keep me honest, a little over 200 people a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
200, 250. Yeah.
Okay. And you also have cases where you're looking at, visa only stuff as well, don't you?
Yes, yeah, that's the just over 400 people where we are just managing a visa, whether it's a US visa, UK, Canada, all of those.
Okay, so that's about 650 people in total. And where in the world are they? What's the sort of the global spread?
Domestic relocation, it's mostly US, some cross-border Canada movement we've seen, Mexico to the US we had seen last year. And then in terms of immigration, Carolyn, I'll have you chime in.
Yeah, so from an immigration perspective, the majority of our employees that we support are in the US, obviously, but we also manage all of our inbound Canadian immigration as well as inbound UK immigration. In the event we have a need for somewhere else, right, where immigration sponsorship is needed, we will manage that as well. So Australia, we've done a couple in the Netherlands, so kind of wherever it comes up. But the three big spots would be the US, UK, and Canada.
Okay, and you've got a team in mobility of 5, I think you said.
5, yeah.
Whereabouts are you based? Are you in the same office? Are you remote, or how's that all
No,
work?
so we are all remote. We are 100% remote team. Morgan is in Atlanta. I'm here in Wisconsin. I have someone in Chicago. We have someone in North Carolina, and then our 5th team member is in Texas.
Wow. Okay. So how often do you actually meet up in person?
We try to meet once a year in person in Atlanta for on-site team meetings.
Cool. That's cool. Let's just talk about the journey then. So I called it the incredible journey because I think when we were talking, you said originally you were sort of I don't know what the phrase was, but it was quite fragmented. I think was the sort of the phrase you were talking about back then. I think you said you had scattered policies. So tell me what it was like in the bad old days of pre-2021, of what the policies were like and why it had grown up the way it was, and how many policies you had.
Yeah, so I'll take that question. So in terms of the scattered policies, I joined Cox in December of 2022, as I mentioned, and each of our entities had separate relocation guidelines. So Cox Communication had their own set of guidelines, Cox Automotive, Cox Enterprise. And when I stepped into the role, our goal was to really centralize the program from a relocation management perspective, technology perspective, but from a program perspective as well. And so as part of that, we did some initial benchmarking with our relocation management company to identify best practices and how we could really synergize and harmonize the program overall. So we went from 5 packages in each division roughly to 5 relocation packages across the enterprise. And so through that.
So if you had 5 packages and 3 divisions, you basically had 15 policies.
Yes, 15 policies. Yes. And so what we did was really streamline what was offered across the enterprise with the goal in mind to provide employees with an equitable experience. If there are job transfers going from one entity to another, having those consistent policies in place will really create that equity among the employees, but to also provide the business with some cost-saving opportunities. So Cox offers very, I would say, moderate in terms of the coverage that we provide. And we wanted to ensure that our employees had flexibility and choice in some of the relocation packages. So we've developed certain models where we provide employees with that flexibility and choice while still offering some core benefits in some cases. But we do currently offer 5 relocation packages across the enterprise that align with our career framework in the organization.
Okay, so I've had some comments that have come in. Let me just see if I can take some of these comments. So we've got We've got this one here from Ferzine, just a comment. She says, cost estimates are often outdated and cumbersome, plagued by interdependencies, errors, and bottlenecks. Then comes Benivo, an aha moment in cost estimation and beyond. Oh, thank you so much, Ferzine. And Carolyn, Morgan, presumably, I'm hoping that was your experience too, an aha moment.
Yes, indeed.
Cool. And then a question from Ali, and he says, hi, Carolyn Morgan. What challenges did you face, if any, to standardize the policies within the entire organization? Because you went from 15 policies down to 5, and presumably you had differences in the policies, which is why you had to change them. What were the challenges in terms of actually doing that?
I mean, I can speak to one of the big challenges. I think one of the big challenges was just overall change management and communicating the benefit and the value of the new standardized policies, right? Because there were, in some instances, packages that might be a little bit more expensive, right? They might be a little bit more generous than we may have been used to in the past. Or we may be offering them to different levels of employees. Going on in the background, when we revised our packages and centralized them, we were also going through a transformation at the enterprise level to standardize our job families and job codes and pay bands. So that kind of all played into it as well. But I think one of the big things was just getting our businesses to see the value in the change and how it will benefit their divisions, their businesses specifically, not seeing it as a takeaway or an additional cost, but seeing it as a benefit to further the employee experience. Morgan, I don't know if you had anything else.
Yes, I actually had one other item to add. As far as current challenges that we continue to kind of face is that not all businesses have the same budget in mind for relocation support as well. So as we went from distinct packages for each division to the enterprise packages, not all businesses had the same amount of budget for relocation. So we do still run into challenges where perhaps we need to modify the level of support that we're providing to make it more manageable for the business while still providing that support for the employees. So really it's a fine balance of providing our businesses with those opportunities where they can still support their teams, but at an equitable perspective, if you will.
And what has it meant for the team themselves? I mean, when you were in 3 divisions, I'm guessing you had people who are either sitting in or supporting an individual division, whereas now have you moved more towards a center of excellence approach?
Yes, so we are a center of excellence. In 2022 is when we first created and stood up our COE, and we started in early 2022 with bringing in the immigration management activities to Cox Automotive, right? So one of my team members was employed by Cox Communications, so she came over into the COE. And then as we look to standardize and consolidate our domestic relocation policies, those were brought into the COE as well. So yes, we sit within Cox Automotive, but we support all of our divisions. So, we truly are a COE, shared service, whatever your company calls it, supporting the enterprise.
Okay, so you moved then to basically a digital transformation. You consolidated your policies, you changed your policies, but also you went for a digital transformation. How did you build the business case to do that? How did you get the line buy-in? Carolyn, if you're trying to.
I could take that. I could take that one. Morgan, feel free to chime in. I think when we looked at building out the business case, one of the main drivers, right, was compliance. Obviously, we want to make sure that we are compliant, and having a centralized platform that will allow us to access all of this data in one central location will allow us right, to make sure that we are initiating cases in a timely manner, that we are, reporting all of our expenses to payroll in a timely manner. So there was the compliance piece, there was a data accuracy piece. There was also the argument that having a centralized case management platform for the team to work in will cut down on the number of manual things, right? The manual pieces that the team is working on, and really allow us to have more of a strategic focus, really working with our businesses to move them forward, to see where mobility and immigration can be a driver to help the businesses get to where they need to be. So cutting back on some of that more manual, and I would say not value added activities that can be accomplished by having this digital automated system where we're able to streamline a lot of things and free up the time of our team. Morgan, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll also add that one of our overall organizational goals is to ensure that we are improving operational efficiencies by at least 1% by the end of the year. So this is also part of building that business case, demonstrating the value that the digital transformation can provide, not just the COE, but the overall organization, our leaderships. And so I would say that the Benivo implementation and the dashboards have really revolutionized our operations, providing visibility to key metrics, whether it's calculating data for quarterly business reviews in terms of authorization data, how many people we're relocating, what the most popular packages are or destinations. But in addition to that, I would say that through some of the data analytics that Benivo is able to assist with, we really transitioned away from those manual spreadsheets, showing our leaders that this has been a successful business case for this digital transformation.
I must admit, I hate manual spreadsheets. But you talked about dashboards, and one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Benivo is the ease with which and the flexibility, the agility with which we can personalize dashboards for anything that the client wants. What did you want out of your dashboards? And Morgan, maybe you can take that. Tell us a bit about the dashboards that you wanted and how personalized they were to your requirements.
Absolutely. So the goal of our dashboards are really to provide our internal team with a snapshot of key metrics. Who are we relocating? Where is the volume? And overall spend. That's always important to be able to share that information with our leaders on a quarterly basis, as well as our HR business partners. But I will say, in terms of dashboards, something that we are really looking forward to is continuing to partner with Benivo to help us track mobility ROI. This is a beginning discussion that we've started to have, really involving cost avoidance, retention, and speed to landing in those roles. So we've been able to partner with Matt a little bit to see how we can further track cost efficiencies and savings, maybe demonstrating how our mobility program has reduced or avoided some costs through some of the negotiated supplier rates. Operational boosts, whether that's highlighting the operational benefits for the mobility team, possibly through automated processes or integrations, and then of course speed to landing. Really,
I love speed to landing, because I think everyone still talks about doing some form of cost estimate, and that's pretty much standard. Whether you do it manually or through technology, people do cost estimates, but people very rarely do speed estimates. And I think that whole metric of not just the cost but the speed to landing, I think, is a huge new thing that has been coming out in the last couple of years. And it's so important. And Caroline, what's your view? What's your vision for sort of dashboards and speed to landing and the other areas we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think speed to landing is, I think it's an interesting metric, right? To try and track, and, to take it a step further, to see how quickly are we able to get the talent into the location where they're needed. And then how does that translate into their own productivity to help the business get to where they need to be. So, I certainly think that is a metric that will be interesting to track when we get that up and running and looking at how we look at that. I think some of the other metrics to Morgan's point, I think really being able to showcase, where are we able to save costs where possible, or create efficiencies within our team, even with our own team productivity, is a beneficial metric to be able to provide to leadership to show the value of the system and the value that the team is bringing.
Cool. Another area that I'd like to get into is a lot of your policies are lump sum or managed lump sum, call it what you will. And I know that financially it can be difficult, historically, in terms of the speed of reimbursement. So tell us a bit about how you're using technology and the Benivo FinTech solution to actually speed up the speed at which employees are reimbursed or put in funds, and how that is impacting on employee experience. Morgan, do you want to come in on that one?
Absolutely. So in terms of optimizing costs with some of the lump sum guidelines that we have, Cox is able to fully deliver our lump sum program through end-to-end technology through the Benivo tools. And one unique feature with the lump sum program is that these employees are able to claim the lump sum instantaneously once they've been added to the platform. So this really provides the employee with flexibility on when they would like to receive those funds. They can even split the payments apart if they want. So if they wanted to receive 50% up front, they could do that, 50% at a later time, perhaps due to tax reasons, maybe the following year, they could certainly do that as well. So I would say overall, the platform just really ensures that it's a high quality service. And we've had some great feedback from the employees in terms of ease, simplicity, and how quickly they're able to be issued the lump sums.
Okay. And Carolyn, do you want to come into that? Do you monitor the employee experience?
We do. We look at employee experience both through surveys, right, that are sent out through the system, but then Morgan also, right, reaches out to the employees at periodic intervals just to get their feedback, make sure that they are feeling supported, right? A lot of times with your lump sum employees, it's just a check, like, here you go, you're on your own. But we do monitor and check in to make sure that they're feeling supported. And I think some of the other benefits to how we have our lump sums structured is not only the ease and the speed of getting the lump sum, but then also being provided with all of our Cox preferred vendors and partners that we work with to help them kind of manage that lump sum and really get them thinking about, where is my money best spent to get me to the new location.
Cool. Okay, I want to go on to another area. When we were prepping a little while ago, one of the things we talked about is this question of, which mobility always talks about, is getting a seat at the table. That's always the, if you like, the holy grail. ROI is one holy grail. Seat at the table is the other holy grail we always hear. But I think you said to me that you guys aren't fighting for a seat at the table because you're already there. So tell us a bit about that. And I'm sure there'll be loads of people out there who are a bit sort of, jealous of the fact that you've got the seat at the table. So tell us about what that means in practice, having a seat at the table, and how you're there making a strategic impact.
Yeah, so I would say at Cox, building rapport and really maintaining strong working relationships with our leaders is really fundamental to some of our success. We've been able to proactively insert ourselves into some strategic discussions, whether we're providing current business or immigration updates and demonstrating our value through providing training opportunities, whether they're on site, virtually, as well as providing informational newsletters or continuous updates regarding transparency. So really, I don't think that we're necessarily fighting for a seat at the table, but we're actively contributing to the overall strategic impact. Carolyn, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things that is great about Cox as well is just the leadership and how supportive our leadership is. I've been at Cox, it'll be going on 5 years, right? I have always felt supported by the leaders that we report to, by the leaders within the business. I think they are open and they understand the value of mobility. They might not understand it 100%, right? When we're talking about visas and immigration. But I think they see the value of it, which helps kind of keep that seat at the table. I think one of the other things that we have been able to do that helps kind of keep that seat is because we're able to automate certain things and free up some time to be more consultative, we've been able to really expand the businesses that we support, right? So we are able to be curious and to ask those questions and to say, how can we support you? Here's this business that we haven't really seen any volume from. Well, let's go out to their leadership and ask the question, what's going on in your business? How can we help? Can mobility help further, right, the initiatives and the goals of your business? So I think we've been very fortunate to be able to have that leadership that supports us, but then also to be able to go out to our businesses that we might not be working with all of the time to see where can we support and what can we provide you, which helps build our credibility and, leads to being seen as a trusted partner.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to ask you the last question. We've only got about 120 seconds left, so I'll go for the quick answer, please, but hard question. What's next? What's on the route map?
I think that we would continue to grow the programs that we have with businesses that we've not been able to currently work with from a domestic relocation, international perspective. Carolyn, did you have any other thoughts about what's next for global mobility?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the businesses that we that are not being fully supported, right? Getting a better understanding of their needs. I think it is building out the immigration capabilities, right, within the platform. We are in the process of doing that. And then I think
that's a really exciting point. We have done a show on the Immigration Management Hub, but tell us about your vision for actually moving out the immigration side, moving out the
yeah. So I think our goal, again, is to have one centralized case management tool that our team can utilize that has an employee's key immigration data, where we're able to initiate cases from, where we are able to attach documents and store notes. So we have a record of all of the activities and actions on that employee's record, where we can run reports to make sure that, we are filing extensions timely, starting someone's green card or permanent residency process with enough time, really having a one-stop shop for our team who's managing the immigration pieces.
Yeah, I know that's a huge step forward, and I know you're very actively launching that at the moment together with us at Benivo, and we're super excited to be working with you on that. I genuinely think that is the future, because so many people in the immigration space don't hit the mobility program because they're just in-country local hires. So it's sometimes hard to actually just keep focus on them. We are sadly out of time. So what remains, I'm going to bring back our wonderful producer, Tally. Julia had to leave us for another meeting, I'm afraid. But to everybody out in the audience, thank you so much for being with us. We hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we have putting it together. Thank you in absentia to Julie Onslow Cole for her immigration update, and a special thank you to Carolyn and to Morgan for telling us all about mobility at Cox and the incredible journey that you've been on. Do come back next week when we're going to be talking about the delivery hero journey with the wonderful Yuki Watanabe. So everybody, that is it. We're now at the end of the show. And Matt is back with us. Tremendous. So just in time to wave goodbye. And as Tara said, love the efficiency goals and to hear about your success. Thank you so much for those comments, Tara. We will be back again this time next week. Everybody have a great, great week ahead and enjoy your week. Take care.
Bye.